If you are an AP language and culture student or teacher and you want to know more about how the exams are actually graded, then this video is for you. Because today I'm going to talk about holistic scoring as it pertains to the cultural comparison, the final task on the exam that is presentational speaking. This was what I read when I was in Cincinnati this past summer. And let me tell you, I had to train 3 times. I was an alternate, so I got to see all the prompts. And all I can say is I was trained and calibrated 3 times. And why am I telling you this? Because when you get to be an alternate, you have to take each prompt separately, listen to the benchmarks, train with and without feedback, and then do a blind scoring before you get to do scoring. So the point is, you do enough of these, you get the gist on what is the most important. And one of the things I learned early on is that if you don't complete the task, you cannot pass. So if you have students who are native speakers and they speak perfectly, but they don't do the task, then they won't get a 3, 4, or 5. I had so many heritage speakers that spoke beautiful Spanish, and it was really difficult not being able to give them higher scores because even though everything they said was perfect and probably culturally relevant, they didn't follow the task. And that is comparing their community to another one while answering the question. So if you have a question such as what's the role of traditions and values in families, then that means that you have to answer the question outright. And you have to take one community, talk about it first. I always recommend the Spanish speaking community first because as non-natives, it's really easy to talk about our own communities and get lost in that for the 2 minutes. And you only have 2 minutes. And then about halfway through, you want to get into the other community. And it's really important that you have comparative words like more than, less than, they do this just as much as that while you're comparing the two. And you can still start with one and then kind of transition to another, but you want to make sure you have a more than, less than, just as much as at least once in the comparison to show that you're not just talking about one and then talking about another. And then as far as completing the task, you have to do that within the 2 minutes. They say you don't have to use up the full 2 minutes, but I think it's really difficult to get a 5 and not speak for most, if not all, the 2 minutes. And if you speak for less than a minute and it's showing that the technology works, then if it's less than a minute, then you can't get a 4 or 5. And it's tough to get a 3 because it's a lot of information you have to squeeze into a minute. So again, you have to compare 2 communities while answering the question. And if you aren't answering the question very specifically, like talking about the role of values and traditions, for example, in families in both communities and using those or similar words, then you can't get a 5 because a nuanced response, as long as if it's not clear that you are answering the question not verbatim, but very intentionally, then you cannot get a 5. If you are inferring, then you can get a 4. So it's all about the what before the how. That's holistic grading. So the what is completing the task. Was the treatment of the task effective? Were the details, did you provide enough relevant examples and supporting details? Did you demonstrate understanding of the target culture with very few inaccuracies? Did you organize? Then we're going to get into the how, which is organizing your presentation, this and that. But if you didn't do any of those the way I just stated, then you cannot get a 5. Okay, it's the what before the how. If you did all that with some example, like enough, like detailed, but could have gone a little further or deeper, it could be a 4. If you did all of that with a few supporting details on each end, each community, then that could be a 3. So the what determines if you pass or not. And then once you're looking at, okay, they did complete the task, then you're in the 3, 4, 5 realm, and it depends on the how. And the how is your level of discourse. Was your presentation cohesive and organized? Did you use the right register? Did you have control of vocabulary? Did you have control of grammar, of like a very strong control of grammar? And showing advanced grammar is a great opportunity to show that as well, particularly if you are making errors in other parts. That kind of massage the grade up a little bit. That is the how. But in order to get a chance at a 3, 4, or 5, you have to do the what first, and that is complete the task. And that is holistic scoring. With the cultural comparison, again, you have to compare two communities, the target language one to your own. You have to state both of them while answering the question. If you do not answer the question directly and completely using supporting details and relevant examples while demonstrating understanding of the target language culture, then you cannot get a high score. You cannot pass at all if you don't do all of that. And if you are treating the topic and you're generally effective or somewhat effective, then that's a 3 or 4. That is how you can tell if you pass or not. That is the what. The what comes first. So you can speak beautifully and you can be a native or heritage, and you are not guaranteed a 3, 4, or 5. I've had students who were natives who got 5s. I've had students who are natives and didn't get 5s. And I've had a lot of non-natives who got 5s as well. So it is possible to get a 3, 4, or 5 while not being a native, because being a native helps you with the how, but if they don't do the what, then you can't get a good score. They just can't. So again, you have to do the what first to determine if you have a 3, 4, or 5, and the how determines the difference. If you, for example, are a non-native speaker, but you are a very good speaker and you complete the task effectively with the right details, totally accurate, control of grammar, really good control of grammar and vocab, errors do not impede comprehension, then you can get a 5. If you have most of that, like all of the what, but the how, you're making some errors that you shouldn't. There is a little bit of impeded comprehension, a few errors in vocabulary, like repeating the same word. I get it. You're going to use the word in the prompt, but synonyms are very important in the productive skills for this language, for this exam particularly. Then that could be a 4, or depending on how many and how much it impeded comprehension, it could be a 3. But if you are a perfect speaker and you don't do the what, then you can't get a 3, 4, or 5. Okay. If you do the task perfectly, but you have a lot of errors that impede comprehension, then that's a 3. Okay. You don't have controlled vocab or grammar or whatnot. So again, it is all about task completion. If you don't complete the task, you cannot pass. The what first and then the how. And that is all about holistic scoring with the cultural comparison. And again, it is a whole score. It's on average of the rubric. It's the what first and the how. And that is how your grade will be hopefully determined during the year, but if not during the year, by the reader that you will have on your AP exam. So hopefully with that information, you can understand a little bit more how to go about this activity. For more videos on protocols and just about the exam holistic scoring in general, there are playlists and links below, just so you can understand the protocols that I suggest for the exam that aren't the only ones you can use, but generally have given students of mine great success in the past. So go to makingspanishsimple.com, subscribe there, and like this video, and go below on those 2 playlists to get more info about AP, whether you are Spanish, French, German, Italian, or Chinese student. And good luck this year on AP. It is a wonderful class, a wonderful curriculum, and as long as you understand how to do the tests, then you'll be in great shape.